Assalamu alaikum, second year English literature. This is your week 1 online lecture number 3. We are going to continue with the poem which I delivered in the last lecture, which is point number 13, Prayer Before Birth. The things which are important to remember about the poem. So basically in this particular slide, I'm going to give a very quick recap of the points which have been discussed in the last lecture and which are important for you to remember for this particular lecture as well. So the very first point is the influence of war on human race. Obviously, this poem is basically a criticism on human race, which is right now deeply in love with the concept of war. The second point is the poem is a dramatic monologue. The poem has been delivered from a perspective of an unborn child in a very dramatic way. The horrors this child is basically afraid of, they have been expressed in a very eloquent manner by the poet in a very dramatic way. The other point is it's a satire on modern civilization. The poet, with the help of this satirical poem, he is criticizing the modern man of 20th century, who thinks that war is the answer to every question and every conflict, every problem can be resolved with the help of war. Another point is incantation and a plea of an unborn child. In every stanza, the very first verse is basically a plea to God. There's a repetition of the verse I am not yet born, emphasizing that the person is still unborn, he's not been given birth to, and the child is basically pleading to God. He's praying to God that please God, have mercy on me, please help me, give me solace, console me, etc. And the next important point is intuition of a spirit that this world is not an ideal place to live anymore. This child, this unborn child, is afraid to become a part of this world. Why? Because according to the spirits, according to the child's instincts, he fears that this place is not a healthy place to become a part of. He fears, with the help of his mother's emotions, that his or her mother is afraid of this world. Why not he should be afraid of it as well? So it's not a healthy place to become a part of. It's not an ideal place to live. Another point is poem is rooted in the grim reality. Yes, this poem has a very sad background. This poem is not originated from happy thoughts. The genre is very sad. It's a tragic poem. It revolves around the emotions, the misery, the catastrophe this world is basically experiencing not only in these days, in every age. So it is set in the grim reality of our existence, that our life, the modern age, it has become a tragedy, a modern tragedy. This particular slide is basically a very brief analysis of the poem. In this poem, the poet is going to discuss about an unborn child who is afraid to be born in this world which is full of horror and dangers. Not only that, with with fear, with with fear, there's an element of hope, understanding as well, that maybe this mankind will learn from their forefathers' mistake and they will not be repeating those mistakes again. In the third point, you will see that repeated I am not yet born, as if to remind the world that there may be time to write the things before the birth, that there is still some time to educate themselves, there's still some time to bring along a reform in their life. Because if not now, then when? Another thing is that this poem has been written from a personal perspective. This is a dramatic monologue. A child is telling his fears. An unborn child is telling the readers that this place, this world is full of mass destruction, and he does not want to become a part of it. First two stanzas are relatively shorter, the rest of the stanzas are relatively longer. But each and every stanza has a very powerful meaning to deliver. Each and every stanza has a plea, has an incantation that maybe this prayer will be heard by God, this prayer will be answered by the man as well, that this place one day will become a healthy place to live in. Starting from the very first stanza, I am not yet born. Oh, hear me. Let not the blood-sucking bat, or the rat, or the stoat, or the club-footed ghost come near me. Starting from the very first stanza, we will see that how this poem is a dramatic monologue. I am not yet born. In the very first verse, the child is basically stating, an unborn child is stating his point of view that I'm not yet born. Oh God, please hear me. So this poem, this particular stanza, has a pattern of incantation and the spirit of prayer. The speaker is basically an unborn child who is in the mother's womb, and while being in the mother's womb, the child is thinking about his future, and thinking about it, he's already afraid, he's already fearful. He intuitively knows, because of the mother's emotion, that this world is not a place to live. This child, his spirit, has been a part of paradise, of heaven, and now, when he's about to become a part of this world, this child is seeking heaven's divine intervention. He's basically praying to God for protection. He's basically praying to God from being corrupted. So, in the very first stanza, the poet has established this fact that this is a dramatic monologue, it's a prayer of an unborn child, and what kind of element he's going to discuss in stanza? The superstition, the supernatural elements. Second verse, let not the blood-sucking bat, a reference to, an allusion towards vampires, or the rat, or the stoat, or the club-footed ghoul. Ghoul means the ghost, against supernatural elements, the spirits. Stoat, animal who looks like a wizard. So basically, in these verses, the poet is basically referencing towards what? He's referring towards all those things which are alien to us, all those things which we are not aware of, which we are unaware of. So he is basically telling us that this unborn child, when he is a form of spirit, he is afraid of all those evil spirits which, according to him, exist on this earth, on our world. He's basically afraid of all those things which are supernatural. He's afraid of all those things which entails any kind of horror, which has a potential of ruining his life. So basically, in the first stanza, it's a mixture, it's an amalgamation of real as well as imaginary world. And according to the poet, this unborn child does not feel safe in both worlds. He does not feel safe to become a part of imaginary, a part of real world. Why? Because according to him, this world is full of evil spirits, and these evil spirits are doing to what? They're going to make his life full of hell. They are going to make his life frightening. So basically, in this first stanza, the poet is basically, or the unborn child is basically asking, seeking refuge from the God. He is seeking help from the God that please do not make him a part of this world which is full of evil spirits, which is full of hell, which is full of deformity, which is full of frightening objects. This world, according to this unborn child, is a weird place to live in, and he does not want to become a part of it. In regard to first stanza, in this particular slide, we are going to study all the literary devices which has been used in this particular stanza. So the very first literary device used in the stanza one is anaphora. What is an anaphora? Anaphora are basically those words or those lines which are repeatedly used in a context, in a text or in a poem. So what was the anaphora used in this particular poem? It was used in the first verse of every stanza, which is I am not yet born. Alliteration. What is an alliteration? Alliteration is basically the words which are repeated, words or sounds which are repeated in a single sentence. For example, in stanza 1, how the alliteration was used? Alliteration was used in the second verse when the poet used blood-sucking bat, burr burr sound. So this is the alliteration used in stanza 1. What is the assonance? Assonance is basically those words which has a certain rhyme to it. The words which rhyme to each other phonetically. So in the first stanza, what were the words which rhymed to each other? It was bat, rat. So keeping all these things in mind, when you are doing the critical appreciation, it is essential that you mention all those things in your critical appreciation. Stanza 2. I am not yet born. Console me. I fear that human race may with tall walls wall me, with strong stroke dope me, with wise lies lure me, on black racks drag me, in blood baths roll me. This poem, again starting from the very first verse, is basically a plea to God. He is basically doing what? He is asking for divine intervention. He is asking for divine help. That please God, help me, console me. I am miserable. If I become a part of this world, I am still miserable. I am not yet born, but I am still miserable. So he is asking for the help of God. Please God, console me, help me. Please help me find some kind of peace. The very important thing which you will notice while reading this poem is the assonance, the repetition of the rhyming words. Throughout the poem, you will find a certain kind of rhythm to it, that tall walls, wise lies, black racks, bloodbaths. So basically, this particular stanza in itself has assonance in it, which creates a pace, a rhythm that these words utter very fluently from your mouth. So, not only that, another important thing analytically about this stanza is the fear of coercion. What is that? The poet, he is basically, with the help of this child, is telling us that he is afraid for this child. This child is afraid for himself that what will happen in the future, that he's afraid that people will use their power to manipulate him. They will force him to do those things which he does not want to do. They will make him do what? This human race, which is full of treachery, they will do what? They will make him do all those things which are so unlike him. So basically, in these particular lines, the unborn child is seeking divine help from what? From the walls. What kind of walls? The political walls. Politics is that kind of phenomena which basically does what? It basically manipulates us. So it is not only about the politicians, it is about all those people, our loved ones, our friends, our so-called loved ones, who use their words to manipulate us, who use us for their own selfish means. So basically, in these lines, this unborn child is basically afraid of manipulation from the hands of friends, from the hands of family, from the hands of not so loved ones, from the hands of enemy. What else he's afraid of? He's afraid of the strong drugs. Do He is afraid of debauchery. He is afraid of immoral ways of living. He is afraid of deceitful activities. He is afraid of all those things which are not only unhealthy for his body but unhealthy for his mind as well. So he's trying to do what? He's basically afraid. He's telling us that he's afraid of the manipulation, he's afraid of debauchery, he's afraid of deceitful means people use, and what will happen? All these things will cover him, all these things will engulf him, and his own identity will be lost somewhere. What else he's afraid of? He's afraid of wise lies, Leonie. That people are so cunning, the people are so clever that they tell us lies in such beautiful, flowery, in such decorated way that we tend to accept, then that it makes us to believe them. He's afraid of all those things. These are the things which he fears. Not only that, he's also afraid of the black racks rack. He's afraid of the means that people use in order to pain others. He's afraid of all those things which destroys the life of other people. He's afraid of all those means of means which are used in order to hurt other people. It could be in the form of guillotine, which the French people used during the time of Napoleon. He's afraid of people hanging. He's afraid of killing. He's afraid of nuclear bombs or hydrogen bombs. He's afraid of guns, ammunition, any kind of things which can be used in order to torture another person. It should not be racks. It should not be just beheading someone, beheading someone's head. It this particular verse where he used the black racks, rack me, he's basically telling us that every mode of things, every medium which can be used in order to give pain to another person, he's afraid of all those things. He's afraid that one day he will also be a part of all those things. He's afraid that one day those people will hurt him as well. So all things overall is making him afraid of this existence. Another imagery which the poet is drawing through with the help of this child is in bloodbath, roll me. Basically, the poet he is giving us a picture. It's an imagery. He's giving us a picture. We have seen bloodshed in the movies, how easily people are killed in streets. So, with the help of this particular part of the verse, he's telling us that bloodshed had become a part of our existence. It is very easy to kill someone. And this unborn child, he does not want to become a part of it. He does not want to see all this massacre. He does not want to see how the soldiers are laying their lives on the battlefields. He does not want to see how innocent people, are put to death on streets. He does not want to see racism. He does not want to see how whites are killing blacks and how blacks are killing whites. He does not want people to be executed because they have different religious beliefs. This unborn child is basically afraid for the whole existence of the mankind. That this is what has become of this mankind. That man, they are cunning beings, and we are always must be careful whoever we are surrounding us with. So these are the essential points the poet has discussed in this particular stanza. Now the literary device which has been used in this stanza, anaphora again, the repetition of the same line or same words, which is I'm not yet born, alliteration, repetition of the same rhyming words, not rhyming words, repetition of the words which have some phonetic interest. The tall walls, wall, wise lies lure, assonance. Again, the repetition of the words phonetically. Almost alliteration and assonance, they are almost similar to each other. Normally, alliteration comes when uh, the, the consonant, the first alphabet, they are similar to each other, whereas assonance is when the whole word rhymes to each other. So there's a very subtle difference between both of them. So try not to be confused between these two. Keeping all these things in mind, kindly include all these points in your critical appreciation as well. Stanza 3. I am not yet born. Provide me with water to dandle me, grass to grow for me, trees to talk to me, sky to sing to me, birds and a white light in the back of my mind to guide me. As you can see, with the tone of this particular stanza, it has a very optimistic kind of tone. You will find hopeful note in this particular stanza in contrast with last two stanzas which were grim, which were pessimistic, full of tragedy, full of fear, but not this particular stanza. And that's the style of the poets. They do not want their readers to become pessimistic. They do not want to uh, basically do what? They do not want them to be lose hope. So this stanza is doing what? It is giving us hope. It is doing what? It is basically giving us, it is blooming a flower in our hearts that if we are hopeful, if we do something about this world can become an ideal place to live in. So in contrast to the last two stanzas, this stanza is full of joy. It is full of optimism. giving us a view of an ideal world. So, keeping all these things in mind, we will see how this stanza has been constructed. I'm not yet born, provide me. So basically, he is wishing for something. The unborn child, he's wishing for something. And what are those things? If he gets those wishful things, this world will become an ideal place for that child, and he would like to become a part of it. So those things are the water to dandle me, grass to grow for me, trees to talk to me, and sky to sing to me, and birds in the white light in the back of my mind to guide me. So basically, what has happened in these particular verses? The poet, he has done what? He has personified the elements of nature. Just like romantics, he is inculcating the nature in his poetry, that if we make nature a part of our life will become a glorious thing. Our life will become blissful. So what is this poem doing? He is doing, this unborn child is making some very innocent praise, some very innocent wishes, desires has been expressed in these verses. That this young child, instead of being afraid of all the things which this world has become of, he wants to play with the water. He wants to flow in the water. He wants to enjoy the beauty, the greenery, the blue color of water, the fishes which are floating in the water. He wants to become a part of nature. Not only that, he wants to roll around in the grass. He wants to play with the green nature, the green elements of the nature. He wants to touch the softness of the grass. He wants to become one with the grass. Not only that, he wants the trees to talk to him. He wants to sit under the shade of a tree, and he wants to talk with the trees for hours and hours. He wants to share his opinions, his desires, his wishes, his optimism with nature. And definitely, when you are becoming a part of nature, nature definitely gives you something back as well, which you have studied in first year in the poem Leisure as well. He wants the sky to sing to him. How can a sky sing to you? In the form of rain, in the form of the wind, in the form of storms, in the form of lightning. And he's not talking about all this nature's phenomena in a very negative sense. He's basically extracting the positive elements of nature, and he wants to become one with them. And when and once you have become one with the nature, all is fine in your world. Money, wow, power, politics, religion, conflicts, they do not mean anything if you are in harmony with nature, if you are in harmony with God. Because once you are close to nature, you are one step closer to God. Once you are closer to God, life is glorious. And that's what the poet is trying to tell us. And that is again an involvement of biblical element in the stanza, in the poem. So he wants everything which has become a part of nature, everything which makes this nature glorious, to guide him in the right direction. He's not seeking, this world is full of darkness, but nature is full of bright light. And he wants that bright light to do what? To guide him in the right direction. A direction which will not only make our life glorious, but it will help out the mankind. It will gives us a sense of direction. And once we have a sense of direction, we will lead the rest of the humanity towards one goal. And that goal will be to have peace, to have happiness. And the world will become a blissful place, a happy place to live. And that's the main agenda of this poet, that he wants that kind of ideal world, not only for himself, but for his future generation as well. The literary devices again used in this stanzas were anaphora, alliteration, and assonance. So I hope so. From the last two stanzas, you would have understood how as an anaphora, alliteration, assonance work in any kind of stanzas. Alliteration was in the third stanza, like grass grow, trees talk, flies sing. The repetition of the consonants, and in assonance, the repetition of the rhyming words, white light, mind guide, in a single verse. So this is how it works in assonance, and keep all these literary devices in mind for the critical appreciation as well. Stanza 7. I am not yet gone, or fill me with strength against those who would feast my humanity, would dragoon me into a lethal automaton, would make me a cog in a machine, a thing with one face, a thing, and against all those who would dissipate my entirety, would blow me like thistledown hither and thither, or hither and thither, like water held in the hands, would spill me. So basically, the theme of this stanza is basically freedom. That freedom is paramount. That if this child wants to be born, he wants freedom first. Otherwise, he does not want to become a part of this world. He does not want to become like a robot, a machine, which has no spirit, no soul. He does not want to become a killer machine, a soulless thing without any kind of identity. So the imagery is quite strong. The metaphor used in this stanza is quite strong. That he compares himself with a thistledown, that object, the feathery object, who is floating in here and there without any kind of control over its movements. So he does not want to become that kind of object. He wants some wholeness. He wants some control over his life. So basically, in this poem, the poet is discussing about the chaos which has spread in this world. How it has spread in this world. This world is now full of plagues. It is full of wars, battles, bloodshed. The modern world is basically devoid of feelings, compassion, love, mercy, and kindness. So, among all those things, he thinks that the man has become a machine. So basically, the poet has used a metaphor of machine. That according to this unborn child, the modern man, they have become machines. They have become non-creative. They have become robotic. They have become mechanical. This man, just like the poem you read in the first year, Hollow Man, the man has become hollow. When you are machine, you have no spirit, and when you have no spirit, you are hollow. So man has become a hollow man, and this child, he does not want to be born in this kind of world. He wishes to be born in a world which is pure like nature, which we have studied in the last stanza. So he wants to be raised in a world which is full of purity, which is full of nature. He does not want to become a cog in a machine. He does not want to become a part of a system which is working on a single phenomena without any kind of input, without any kind of um, any kind of person who wants to put in his word in. He don't want to become. He wants to have an identity. So basically, in this particular stanza, the poet is criticizing, he's condemning the modern age, the man who has become a robot, who has no control over their emotions, who are controlled by the men who have power over them. And this child, he does not want that for himself. He want because every man they have an intellect. Every man has a mind of their own. The God has blessed us with soul. The God has blessed us with sanity. And this child, he wants to use that thing. So the abstract nouns dominate in this stanza, which are the strength. He wants strength, humanity, entirety. So all these things basically does what? These things give us a sense of freedom, freedom of expression, that what that how to live our life, what kind of philosophy you want for us, a sense of integrity. So this is important. Not only that, the poet has also used simile. He has compared the uncontrolled life of a man with a thistledown. Men of modern age, they have no control over their emotions. They have no control over their movements. They have no control over their sanity. They have become a part of a system, and this system is just moving on and on and on an old phenomena settled by those people who wanted power, who wanted money, who were corrupting the people, who had absolute power. So he does not want to become like Thistledown. So the simile has been used in this stanza. Imagery is quite strong, again with the help of the comparison of man with a Thistledown, comparison of man with an automatic machine. So basically, with the help of this simile, he is doing what? The poet is basically telling us that the man of modern age, they are not free. We say that we live in a free world, but this world is not free for man. So humanity is basically caged by the men in power. And this child, he want himself to be filled with strength, with determination, so he could fight against such kind of conditions. Okay, the metaphor and similarities to later devices has been used in this particular stanza. How the metaphor has been used. The man has been compared with a cog in a machine. Cog is basically a piece, a circular piece in a machine. Basically, what the poet is trying to tell us that the man has become a part of a system. They have no control of their emotions. They have been manipulated. They have been controlled by the other men or other people who are in power. And this unborn child, he does not want this for himself. Hence, he is asking for divine intervention. That is why he is asking for the divine help. How the simile has been used? The child is saying basically that he would blow me like thistle down hither and thither. Who would blow me? The system. The system is basically doing what? They are controlling, they are manipulating, they have caged me just like a thistledown. A thistledown has no control over their movement. They are just spilling around. They are just moving around the nature. And same is happening with this man as well, that he has no control over their emotions, that wherever a wind blows, wherever a trend sets, he moves with that trend. And this unborn child is not along with this notion. Another simile has been used in this particular stanza when he has said, or hither and thither, like water held in the hands would spill me. Just like a person cannot control water in their hands, you cannot keep your hands full of water. You cannot cage water. Similarly, in this, the poet is trying to tell us that what is happening, that humanity is being spilling from the hands of this world. There's no humanity left in this world. Man has lost their compassion. Man has become so full of rage, so full of cruelty and horror that the the expression of freedom, it has been spilled from their very existence. So in this manner, simile and metaphor has been used in this particular stanza. Stanza 8. Let them not make me a stone, and let them not spill me, otherwise kill me. So basically, this stanza is the falling of the curtain. It's a resolution, it's a denouement of this particular poem. And these two particular verses, they are very hard to hear. They're very hard to read because these two stanzas show how insensitive, how heartless this world has become. This child, he is basically praying to God that please not let this world make me stone, not let this world make me a thing which has no emotions, no humanity, no compassion. Let not this world make me a person who desires war, who hates humanity, who is cruel to his men, who is cruel to mankind, whose life is full of horror, and whose life has no freedom. He does not want this thing for himself. Hence he is praying to God that please not let me become a part of such kind of existence. So basically, poet in this last stanza, in these last verses, is very sad. He is sad for the present state of the mankind, of the modern man, of this modern world, and he is desperately wishing for something. And what is that something? That if his wishes are not granted, if this world is not going to become a reformed place to live in, then he does not want to live in this place. He will prefer death over living in this world. So overall, this these verses give a very disheartening closure to this point, that this child does not want to be born alive. He wants his life to end. So basically these verses shows the disgust of the poet himself, that this world has become so mechanical. It has become so dehumanizing that it has a very tragic effect on human beings. So basically, these verses, these are a very clear attack on the modern civilization, who has destroyed the nobility of man. So these verses have a very harsh impact, just like as the slide states. Again, the echoes of Shakespeare's Hamlet speech, "To be or not to be." There's circumstances that either you want to become a part of it or you not want to become a part of it. And this child, he has had enough. He does not want to become a part of this life. He says, "Kill me." That if he cannot have a pure, safe, beautiful, and peaceful world, he prefers death to life, where feelings have no part to play. So basically, it's a very demoralizing kind of end. It's basically a slap to our face that this is how insensitive the man has become. That even an unborn child does not feel safe. So just imagine how insecure a born child is in this world. That there is no sense of security. So, with the help of this poem, this stanza, these verses, he is basically stating the dark reality of our existence. That this world is a very horrifying place where there is no place for intellect, there is no place for will. Hence, this child, because he knows that his will, his wish is not going to be granted. This place is not going to become a very peaceful place. Hence, he only desires one thing, and that is death over life. And we need to remember this thing, that humanity has been humanity, not only humanity, humanism has been taken away from man. Such life is disastrous. Such life has nothing, no freedom. So it's better not to give birth to a child in such kind of a world, because what kind of life we are giving to them. So that is the quintessential of this stanza, that death is thousand times better over living in such a miserable world. And I hope so all of these points, individually and collectively regarding this poem, will be clear to you. Anaphora. Again, the anaphora used in this poem was "I'm not yet born," alliteration is "make me," the repetition of the consonant M and N, and metaphor. "Let them not make me a stone." The how is the metaphor is used? The child is basically praying that he does not want to become like a stone. A stone has no emotions. It's static. It's not. It has no emotions, no expressions, no feelings, no freedom. It is something which is very static. So he does not want to become like a stone. So this is how the metaphor has been used in this particular stanza number 8. So this is the end of today's lecture on prayer before birth. I hope so you have understood each and every stanza quite clearly. And I'm going to give a very brief summary of this poem, that what has actually happened in this poem. That this poem is a huge satire on humanity, and this poem is basically a modern poem written by a modern poet, and is a rich depiction of the modern world in which the man has become a huge part of an automatic machine. And this poem represents the dark, grim, black, cruel, merciless existence of modern age, or the modern world. And what is actually happening at this point? A child, an unborn child, is praying to God. He's praying to God that he wants to be protected against all these grim realities of life. The poem is a clear attack on modern civilization, and according to the poet, the war, it has done what? It has basically destroyed the noble feelings, humanity. And what McNeice is trying to tell us, that war is not is something which should be abolished. There should be peace in the world. And he's not only asking this thing for himself, but he is basically praying to God as well, so that his future generations could have a peaceful world to live in. So this is for today's lecture. I hope that you have understood everything quite clearly. And stay tuned for the next lecture, because in the next lecture I'm going to discuss the critical appreciation of this particular poem. Not only that, important questions will be discussed as well. So stay tuned, and Allah Hafiz.